right. Hey, good morning, everyone. So, yeah, thank you for being here. Give yourself a round of applause for showing up. Yeah, very good, very good. It's not that early, but still impressive that you made it. So we want to get going. I know we're going to have some other people, trickle in, and then we are mic'd up today. So we're also on Zoom and Facebook Live, and so we got a lot of people, watching from all across the country. Actually, I'm Derek Christie. I'm CEO at Approved Mortgage. And so our company, this is a big event, last big event of the year. And so our team members are on in Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, Michigan, and Florida. So appreciate all of you that are online joining us today. We've been putting on these panel events for you for several years now. And so we've done a lot of different subject matters. We always try to pick a subject matter that monetizes. So we try to create an opportunity to give back to you. And so we've done different things like tax strategies. We did that in November also. We did that with a group of CPAs, another former IRS agent. We still invited him in. He's actually a good friend of mine. But anyway, so we've done that. We've done unlocking marketing secrets. We've done all kinds of social media. Building wealth in real estate. But today is really special because I think it all starts with mindset. And so today we're going to talk about a positive mindset, an abundance mindset, a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. So that's the topic. So if you're in the wrong room, now's your time to leave. So, but that's what we're going to talk about today. And so what I try to do in terms of interest is I try to pick panelists that you will find interesting. And I think we have a superb panel lineup today, and I think they will share a different perspective on the subject, but I think you're going to see a lot of alignment, as well. This subject is something that I've studied, almost my whole life. I've been at this, and it's a journey, and I think all of us are at a different stage of the journey, but the journey never ends. And so there's so much, that attacks us today in terms of trying to get your attention, right? And so I hope that what you get today out of this is some real practical steps, some real techniques, tactics, that you can use, from a strategic standpoint to what I always say, I'm trying to create that version 2.0 of myself. So I'm trying to go to that next level, to be the best, person that I can be. And I think that's what, this is really about today. And so I sometimes meet with my family, and they're online. So one of them's even in the room. And I said, oh, I wish we could spend 2 hours in talking about mindset because it's so important for you, your self-esteem, what you achieve in life. But we really don't have that much time. But I'm spending it with you. So I said, okay, you guys have to come. So my own family's online, and this is a talk. We do family talks. And so we haven't done one particularly on mindset. So I said, look, this is perfect. So this is what I would want to give from my heart to my own family because I know how important it is. And so I said, hey, we're going to put this on as the panel event. So I appreciate all of you, our extended family, being here. So thanks for joining in today. And what I want to do is introduce you to the speakers too. Had some bios here. I'll read this real quick, so you kind of get an idea of who the panelists are, and then we'll get started. So on the far end, Danny Anderson, who I've known for a very long time. You're getting old, but you start to lose track of the years. So I can't remember the number of years anymore. But Danny is the lead pastor of Emmanuel Church, a multi-site church with 8 locations in Central Indiana. He's now in his 20th year. Well, that would answer the question. Yeah, at least 20th year as lead pastor of Emmanuel. So maybe 21, 22. He's graduate of Liberty University, the author of Church Growth Unleashed, How to Grow a Church Without Losing Your Soul, as well as the host of the Church Growth Unleashed podcast. He's also a coach to other pastors and leaders across the country who wish to seek growth in a healthy way. So please welcome Danny. Brent Tilson, I've known since probably 1993, 1994, I think.
Never you opened.
Yeah, Approved Mortgage. So I opened Approved Mortgage, and Brent was the IRS agent was my first CPA, and Brent was my second CPA. So shortly thereafter. So yeah, maybe Steve was being too tough on my deductions. So
My rule was when in doubt, deduct.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. That's why I hired him. That's why I
grew so fast.
Yeah. So Brent Tilson is a nationally recognized entrepreneur, industry leader, and civic advocate. From his start as a CPA, he's been a champion for small business and entrepreneurs. He is the founder and CEO of Tilson HR, a national professional employer organization providing a comprehensive suite of business solutions to help businesses grow and thrive. Under his direction, Tilson HR has netted numerous awards and recognitions for its high growth and success. He's been very active in supporting his industry both on a local and national basis. During his tenure as chairman of the National Association of Professional Employer Organizations, I don't know how to pronounce that acronym, NAPIO.
There you go.
Close. He was at the helm for the watershed passage of federal legislation for the industry. He's active in his community, serving in various positions at local church, former president of the Greenwood Redevelopment Commission. So please welcome Brent. And Eutêmia, I met you through my wife, actually. They had first met. And so I had invited her in, and I'm really interested. I know these guys for a long, long time, for decades, but I'm really interested to learn more about what you do. And so I'm very intrigued. And so I'm going to read a bio here. It says, my name is Eutêmia Stockman. I'm an energy worker, Reiki master, sound crystal bodywork therapist, and currently a student of shamanism. Okay, so you can tell I don't know what that is. And then I provided a unique combination of Reiki, deep tissue bodywork, crystal therapy, sound bath chakras alignment. I do know what that is. Energy cleanse and a unique energy healing technique worked through me by spirit guides. Feel a full integration of the spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical body during my session. So yeah, please welcome Eutêmia. So we'll get started here. We're going to ask some questions that are going to open up, and each person will answer that question. And then if you need to step out, that's fine. There's some restrooms there. We're going to have some lunch later on in the hour. So we'll make it we always make this kind of a productive, like, working lunch. So we did, like, I think Jimmy John's today, and then you just grab that and bring it to your seat. We'll keep plowing through, information, because I want to give as much back to you in terms of content as we possibly can. And she just stepped out. So I'll say this, don't tell her I said so, but Alicia does a lot of work for this event. So I want to say it in front of her and embarrass her. But anyway, I do really appreciate Alicia, the whole team. Andy, he's got us wired up here, and make sure that the mics always work for everybody online that can hear well. So I appreciate everybody that put this together. And so we'll get started here with the first question that I wanted to ask you. We can start with Danny. I wanted to ask, when you think back to the start of your career, where you're operating more out of a fixed or a growth mindset, and how did that show up in your results, and when might that have changed?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, it's an honor to be here with you guys and share. So thank you for the invitation and share the panel with you guys. So I think it's important to kind of start with some definitions. That always helps me in my mind. Like, what do I mean by, or what do we mean by fixed mindset versus growth mindset? And if you have not read Carol Dweck's book, Mindset, that would be one that we would all recommend. Hey, that's really where this idea comes from. But Carol defines a fixed mindset as basically a mindset that says, my skills, my knowledge is limited. I am who I am, and that's all that I have. And so if I can't do something, then I'm just going to quit, because everything is fixed. My skill set is fixed. And so that's kind of obviously not the kind of mindset we want to have. And the other side, there's the growth mindset, where, your skills are growing, and, you can become better every single month, every single year. And that's obviously the direction that Carol says we should all be moving. And so I think when I started as a youth pastor back in, my wife is here with me today. She can correct me on some of these dates if I get them wrong. Would you guys welcome Jackie real quick? She's just awesome. Love you. She loves when I call attention to her. But as a youth pastor, I started in 2000. And I had always had a growth mindset, even in high school when it came to sports. I always thought, man, I can get better and better and better. I can become a better shooter, a better passer, whatever, better defender. And so I took that into youth ministry, and the youth ministry grew because I really did have that growth mindset. Like, I really don't know what I'm doing now, but I can learn how to become a better youth pastor. And we saw results with that. The youth group grew. I think at one point we got up to 250 students in our high school group. It was a lot of fun. But then when I became a lead pastor, back in 2006. It was a whole different ballgame. Leading adults, you guys are different than high school students. Like high school students, you could say, hey man, you look really cool. Your pink hair is awesome. I love your ripped jeans. Here's some pizza, and they love you, right? But with adults, it's a little bit different. And so as I began to lead our church in 2006, I took over for the founding pastor. There was a mass exodus. We were at like 2,000 people. The church went all the way down to about 900 people. And all of a sudden I had to deal with this reality that, oh my gosh, it's failing. And maybe I'm a failure. And I began to question myself and say, I don't have the skill set to be a lead pastor. Obviously, the results are proving it. Every single week, more and more people were leaving. Our finances went from about $70,000 a week to about $30,000 a week. Those are real numbers. I had to fire 7 people that were all older than me. I was 28 years old. And so I really struggled in that time frame with feeling like a failure. I was seeing the results, and I was letting those results define who I was. And so I battled through that, and I began to say, wait a second, maybe I can learn to get better at this. But it took me a while. And so finally, I got on the solution side of things, and I started to learn the different skill sets that are required to be a lead pastor of a larger church. And so I stuck with it, hung in there, which is one of the key, I guess, defining marks of the growth mindset is you don't quit. Like that's one of the markers. Maybe we'll get into some of that today a little bit. And then 2008, the church started to grow again, and it's just been a lot of fun since then. We've seen God do some amazing things. We now have 8 campuses. Next year, we hope to launch our 9th campus in North Vernon, Indiana. And so, yeah, so I think that's my answer to the question.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, a lot of insight. Yeah, that's good. And Brent, how would you answer that?
Well, first, before I start, thank you everybody for being here. And also, we should recognize any veterans in the room. So do we have any veterans in the room? If we do, if you can either show your hand or stand so we can recognize you. Anyone? Well, if not, you have veterans.
Well, those online.
Yeah.
Derek.
So So we know they're out there. And
we do have veterans on our team. So yeah.
That's great.
We do.
It's good. This is somewhat hard to follow Danny after that answer. That was very well done, because I remember because Derek and I and Danny lived through that together.
Yes, we did.
And I remember having conversations as everything was happening, and so it was quite the journey, and you did so well. So very, very proud of you for all that you did. That was a hard time, and for those of us who were in the church at the time, it was like, wow, because we saw it dwindle very quickly, and how it really tore you up. Because I can just remember you're just so demoralized. And so a little bit emotional, because I remember what it was like. It was tough. For me, it's interesting. Danny alluded to it for himself, but same with me. I grew up in sports, always luckily was on the championship team. It seemed like every time I was on the team, it's like, okay, well, we won football, then we won baseball, then we won this, whatever. It always seemed like I was fortunate to be on that winning team. And then you go through high school and so forth. And then I had high aspirations for myself going into college and wanted to be a CPA. And unfortunately, life took a turn. And I ended up getting married my freshman year of college and having to move back from Bloomington, take a job, delay my education, start working for the highway department, had a mouth to feed. And for myself, it's like, okay, wow. Didn't see that coming, this little turn in life. So I was literally sitting in front of Perry Marine High School, where I went, and school was letting out, and I was out patching chuck holes working for the highway department. And I'm watching all my buddies leaving their cars, and I'm like, life is not supposed to be this way. This was not how this was supposed to turn out. And at that moment, I made a decision that I'm not going to let this define me. And so the filling chuck holes has been a metaphor for me for a long time. And so as I was filling this chuck hole, it's like, okay, I got to do something about this. And so talked to my wife, went back to school, started taking night classes, kept pushing. But I worked with a bunch of guys who had fixed mindsets. I didn't even know there was such a thing at the time, but I watched how they lived their lives. And their lives they've been with the highway department for 20 years. They were going to retire from the highway department. They were going to plow snow and fix chuck holes, pick up trash, and never change. And that was their life. And I sat in the truck reading the Wall Street Journal. And in fact, my supervisors were so kind, they allowed me to go hide in my truck on days that I had exams. And so I'd go sit for hours on some back cornfield road studying. And it was very kind of them. They allowed me to do that because they didn't want to see me get stuck. And so fast forward, graduate, end up working for KPMG, one of the big 8 accounting firms. And it was just astonishing for myself to have pushed through all those challenges because it was hard working 2 and 3 jobs at times, putting my way through college, having, mouths to feed, then another one to come along and another one. So I have 4 daughters. And then I thought, okay, well, I always wanted to have my own company. And so I wanted to keep pushing and growing. And so I left the comfort of having my own CPA firm and went and took out a home equity loan and told my wife, just trust me, I'm going to go start my own CPA firm. So I hung my shingle literally in Norm McLean's office right up here at Remax. And he was so kind to allow me to have an office there. And I slowly started building my practice and met Derek and others and just kept pushing and growing and pushing and growing. But sometimes, I had to sell during the day and do accounting at night because you got to grow business. Well, fast forward, and it's like, okay, I never want to be a CPA the rest of my life. I knew I always wanted to have another business. And I came across the idea of what became Tilson HR today. And that was 30 years ago. And just on my own, using my accounting firm, I helped push through to grow this new business. And I remember, similar to you talking about, you don't know if you're going to make it. I can remember I talked my dad into joining me, and we went through the line of credit pretty quickly. And then we started borrowing on American Express cards, and we're doing everything we can just to pay the bills. And I had to let a guy go because it's like, sorry, I can't pay you. So he sued me. And I paid him, but it was very uncomfortable to be that bad. You're like, okay, am I going to actually be able to do this? And so in my book, I brought copies of them, and it's actually a great story of my life. In the book, it talks about something I learned early on in my accounting practice was there's something in business called the S-curve life cycle. And in the S-curve life cycle, it's about performance over time, and companies grow to a point, and then they hit what I call the growth ceiling. And that growth ceiling is where the systems and people can't push through to the next level of performance. And then they go into chaos. And I call it the drama zone because they hit the ceiling, then they bounce off, and their company starts struggling. And they really have to fight through to figure out how to fix systems, maybe hire new people to push on through. And I learned that working with small businesses. And so I have used that my entire life. That's what encouraged me to write the book, was I have put all these processes and systems in place. So it's very much like the growth mindset, and the fixed is I'm all about organizationally, how do you drive high performance companies? So my focus has been on growth for businesses, not necessarily an individual mindset, even though that's where it starts from. And so having pushed forward to today, I was sharing with Derek, happy to share that I had, after 30 years, was able to successfully exit my company. And so I'm still a part of it, but I had a very nice year this year. And that's what you do. You grow your companies to someday have hopefully a transaction where you can go and do more. And it's been very exciting. I have a great new partner, and we're growing and expanding. And so we're now even going and doing more. So it's a journey of life, and your highs and lows, and you hit these ceilings, and you have to plow through them, learn more to grow again.
That's great. That's great. Fantastic. You did leave out the one story.
Which one?
We have a lot of stories, the hot tub stories, the plow truck when you turned it over. And then
Yes, I did flip it.
Yeah, no, but we can save that for later. But that's an intrigue there. So
you've told everybody.
that's true. That's true.
So I was going up Bluff Road on a beautiful Saturday morning, and it had snowed a lot, and I was one of the rookie drivers, so I wasn't really a truck. I was a laborer at the time, but I was able to drive the truck. So I'm driving this brand new dump truck up Bluff Road, and I had seen one of the other seasoned guys get in the lane and drive fast and push the snow all the way across the road. So I thought I could do the same thing. So I'm about 50 miles an hour going up Bluff Road. Next thing you know, the truck's flipping. So it was fun.
And then
it was a true growth moment.
Well, because one door closes, another one opens. Then he
Definitely.
became a trainer and told people this is what not to do.
Yeah, I actually became the trainer. For the
So
highway
this is,
department
you
of
know,
driving
so this
trucks.
is
Who knew?
sometimes how it happens.
It is. Well,
Yeah.
sometimes you do. You learn
Yeah.
from your mistakes.
Eutêmia, so yeah, when you had starting out, if you want to talk about, your perspective on the growth versus fixed mindset.
First of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for having me. I'm very nervous, never done speaking before, so bear with me. When I first started this, everyone called me crazy. I was recently divorced. I have 4 kids, and I never saw myself working for anybody else. I had never worked before because my husband wanted me to stay home. So I've always been very spiritual, and that was my calling. I just knew that was it. But back then, it was over 11 years ago, nobody knew what my work was. Everybody thought that I had a couple loose screws in my head for like, what is this all about? But I never lost faith, and I knew that was what I was meant to be. And I firmly believe that whenever we follow our passion and we keep our connection with the higher power and follow whatever makes us happy, whatever ignites that light within us, the only result is success. I started that, nobody knew what it was, but I kept going. And it was hard. Sometimes I had like $20 in my bank account for me to go through the whole week. And until all of a sudden, I received a call from a high-profile client that was curious about the work that I do. He was like looking for anything he could find to help him with his mental and emotional health. And he's like, I don't know what to do, but I'm desperate. I want to hire you. Started working with him and all alongside with a group of doctors. Then everybody saw the huge improvement that he had once he started working with me. And from that, that event, he started referring me to other high-profile clients. And long story short, I went from having $20 in my bank account to last a week to, and now I'm like very abundant. I never lost faith, so I always had the abundant mindset because I've always believed that if you follow your passion, like you put out that frequency of authenticity, everything that is meant for you, it can help but to be attracted to you. So now I'm in a complete different situation. Heading in 2 weeks I was telling Janine, to Dubai to buy my first investment property there. And yeah, I just believe in yourself. Like whatever, God does never put a desire within us if we were not meant to have it. So everything that we feel like called towards, it's meant to be ours. The only thing that we need to remove is the blockages that we place upon it. So that's my story.
That's great. That's great. That's fantastic. Yes, very good. Very good. It reminds me of something you guys all kind of said in the beginning, maybe that, people thought I was crazy. I think Steve Jobs said that, didn't he? To the crazy ones, the dreamers, so it makes me think of that. So, yeah, you have to keep going. Don't quit. So also thinking about, recognizing scarcity thinking, because we're all susceptible, even when you reach new heights, it still creeps in. And so question I have for you, we can start with you, Eutêmia. What are some signs that someone is operating from scarcity, whether it's in their business, their personal life, relationships, their finances? What do you think are some telltale signs or
It's
things that they
very
should look out for?
simple.
Yeah.
Look around, look at everything that is happening in your physical reality. Are, bills piling up, like relationships going wrong, business deals falling. If that's happening and you look into your mind, I bet you anything you're gonna find fear and you're gonna find scarcity. And fear is the most detrimental frequency that we can tune into it. And that is something that I always tell my clients, that you need to fight that every single day. You need to, like whenever fear comes into you, you just push it away. Like, no, I do not fit into this frequency. And just tune in with the frequency of God and believe that everything that you want, you are meant to have. Like abundance is our birthright. We were meant to be abundant. And it's just, we have to tune into that frequency, do the physical work that we know, the steps that we need to take towards that, and everything will come. So the biggest way to tell if you're having a scarcity mindset, just look around.
Yeah, it's good.
Simple.
Brent, what are some ways that you would identify that yourself or in others, maybe that you lead? So how would you identify it?
It's interesting, I work with lots and lots of businesses over the years and have worked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of CEOs and people who start businesses that fail, people who start businesses that succeed. And you can see when leaders are becoming fearful, and just by the conversations, the questions, possibly they've lost big clients or they've had just the economy hits them. And so what I always try to do is help people be better prepared to plan for when things could go wrong. Because a lot of people don't think about things going wrong. They think about everything is always going to be up and to the right. And that's not what happens in business specifically and or in relationships. And so one of the things, and Derek's heard me ask this a million times, but I always challenge people to ask themselves in the business world, what will put you out of business? And I want them thinking about what are those things they can't possibly think will ever happen, but they need to be prepared for, so that they don't go into the fear side and paralysis. And so when you think about what will put you out of business, we'd always have some sort of worldwide issue, but no one ever thought we'd get hit with a COVID pandemic, but yet it did. It wasn't on your list probably. But when you think about what could put you out of business, well, how about the government being shut down for 41 days? What about, interest rates skyrocketing that affects mortgages and everything else and home builders? But that's when people go into the fear mode, is if they haven't prepared and planned for what if that happens, even if it's remote, just to be able to think about it, because then it doesn't surprise you when it does. But oftentimes people don't want to go through the exercise of really pushing down to say, in my world, and you could apply that to your personal life as well. It could also be, what'll cause you to get a divorce. I mean, you could start in many different ways, but that's what I see, is really trying to help people understand that it's going to happen to all of us at some point. The question is, have you thought through it, or have others around you that you can go to as good advisors that can help you get through and look around corners and prepare for the future when it does happen? Because it will. You just don't know which thing it's going to be.
It's good. Danny?
I wrote a few things down, just markers of scarcity or the fixed mindset. The first one I put down was being easily discouraged. That's a mark of scarcity, because a person who's in the fixed mindset does not believe they can grow through this. And so one of the things that they often say to themselves is there's no way out of this situation. And so they're very easily discouraged when they come up against a roadblock or some sort of setback. I wrote this one down: fear of failure, not just fear itself, but fearing the failure. Like the reason why people with the fixed mindset fear failure is because if they do fail, as I mentioned earlier, I struggle with this early on and still battle it. I don't think anybody ever gets totally through it. Then that failure will define them as a failure. And so a lot of people with fixed mindsets and I meet a ton of people like this, they would rather not try and be safe because at least they can say they didn't fail. That's how much they fear failure. So they don't ask the person out on a date. They don't try to start the business because what if I fail, then I'll be a failure. So they just avoid it and they play it safe. And a lot of people do that. I wrote down stinginess as a sign of scarcity. So if you find yourself, it's really hard for you to give away money or to give away your time or to even share your contacts. Like, hey, you need to connect with my friend. If you find yourself grasping your cash or grasping your network, that's a sign of scarcity and not abundance. If I win, here's another thought. If I win, if they win, I lose. That's a sign of scarcity. So we find it hard with a fixed mindset to celebrate other people's successes. If you've ever felt that inside of you, that's the scarcity mindset. Your jealousy starts to take over inside of you. So it's really hard to see other people's successes and celebrate them. In fact, with a fixed mindset, we see other people's successes as a threat to us. And it really is kind of a nasty thing. I wrote this one down. This is the last one I'll say. I think a victim mentality is also a byproduct of a fixed mindset. Because in a fixed mindset, you're thinking, my skill set can't grow. This is all I have. This is all the money I'll ever have. There's not that much money out there. And so when other people succeed, when you see other people maybe flourishing, it's almost like, well, how come I didn't get that? And the world is set against me, and I didn't, my break hasn't come in. And then I've heard people say this about some of my close friends who are growing and their businesses are growing. I hear this phrase. If you ever hear this phrase, this is a scarcity phrase. Must be nice to be them. Looks like his how do they say it? Looks like his ship came in, right? I'm still waiting on mine. It's like, well, that's not how it works. Like they're busting their butt, working to make the things grow. And so those are some of the thoughts. Yeah, but
I tell people that sometimes it was a 30-year overnight success.
Yeah.
So sometimes
must be nice to be you.
It must be nice, yes. But yeah. And because they weren't with you on that whole journey, they only see today. And so, it's but yeah, you're right. I think that is could be a little bit short-sighted. So yes. Good point. So we've talked about recognizing the scarcity mindset, fixed growth mindset. So how do we shift out of that? What's one practical way, Brent, I'll ask you, what's one practical way, or you can have more than one practical way that you think, a technique that you would say, hey, let's shift, away from that fixed mindset into that growth mindset, what has to change as kind of a reset?
Something I've used for years is my terminology was vision casting. And the idea was to try to always be looking forward in a growth mind sort of way to what is it I'm looking to achieve? What am I trying to get to? So that I'm focused with my head up, my bright lights on. So I'm looking out to the future and not head down, low beam, looking at my feet. I need to be looking ahead. And so anytime I feel like I'm starting to get into this point of fixed versus growth, it's because I'm not looking ahead. And so I would set goals for myself, 5 and 10 year goals of not just a 1-year goal, but no, where do I want to be? What do I need to, what pieces of chess, so to speak, on the board do I need to move to get to that future point where I want to be, knowing that I'm going to be having to make other moves because other people are going to make moves against me. And so, one of the things I did early on, and I would challenge my staff, and they thought I was crazy, but I would say, okay, I need you to write an article. You get to pick the magazine or the newspaper, and I want you to write an article about where you're going to be 5 years from now, from the perspective of someone's writing about you. And it was always a very interesting exercise because so many people don't think about anything other than, okay, what are we doing this weekend? Or, where are we going for Thanksgiving? Or what are we doing for this? But they don't really look out and go, okay, what does my future really look like? And how do I get there? And so the vision casting to me is something that I encourage. And my staff would always find it frustrating when I'd make them do it. They're like, why am I doing this? It's like, well, I'd really like to see where you think you're going to be. You don't have to be working for me. In fact, you may have other aspirations of what you want to do in life. Don't get caught up thinking that I just have to show up at Brent's office 8 o'clock every Monday morning and leave Friday at 5. I want you to think about what is your life all about. And it was always interesting to see what people would do and how they would change and how they would view. And I've had, employees who have started off as literally the receptionist and have just gone on to just do wonderful things in our company. And so for me, it's always challenging people to try to look to the future and plan for it so you don't get caught. And so I still do that myself today. I still try to think. Somebody asked me before, so Brent, what's the next step in your life? And it's like, boy, I got to get my eyes up and really think about that because I've been so focused. And thank you, Bruce, for calling me out on that. But it was something that I need to ask that question. It's because it's easy to get caught up in just the now and not look to the future.
Oh, it's good. It's good. Eutêmia, how about you?
Well, I always tell my clients that figure out where you want to be 5 years from now. Then act like you are that person. Every single day, every action you wake up, like if let's say you want to be a millionaire, which everybody who wouldn't like that, okay? So wake up every day. What would a millionaire do first thing in the morning? How would a millionaire act? What steps would a millionaire take to get there? How would a millionaire see, like when an opportunity comes, how would a millionaire, take that opportunity? And envision yourself, act like that every single day. And a powerful thing that I tell my clients that it always helps everybody, right before you fall asleep, when your subconscious is like very acceptable to everything, just envision you already having that life, because that will set you up into the frequency of achieving that even faster, because it will program your subconscious mind. And then, as you put the action with the programming of your subconscious mind, it's gonna happen. So that's what I would recommend.
That's good.
I heard you talk about that on social media, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to ask you. So I'm so glad that came up. It's one of the breakthroughs that I've seen recently, is that stepping into that future self today. And so I hadn't always done that, but I've started to change, that mindset, that thinking. And so, yeah, I appreciate that. That's kind of a new perspective for me. So yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And yeah, Danny.
Yeah, so this is a great question because it's getting real down to the nitty gritty of how do I shift out of that. And if you have read Carol's book or you've heard her TED Talk, she's got some really good TED Talks on this very topic. She talks about learning 2 words to shift your mindset, and the 2 words are not yet. Not yet. Yeah, I couldn't do that. And a lot of people will say, I can't do that because they weren't able to perform the function or whatever, run the race or hit the golf ball, the straight or whatever the thing is. And the growth mindset starts to shift when we say to ourselves, yeah, I can't do that yet. What that does is that sets your whole posture in this, okay, but I will. And if I put in the work, if I put in the practice, I'm going to be able to hit that golf ball straight. I am going to be able to get up and do the public speaking or whatever it is, the challenges in front of you that you think you can't do. We've raised 3 kids. They're now 24, 22, and 20. So they're still kind of kids, but they're semi-adults. Anybody else in that phase of life? Yeah, it's interesting. They're kids, you're becoming your friends. And all of them, all 3 of them were programmed, as we all are. Whenever we're trying something new, they all would say these words to me and my wife: "I can't do that, Dad." And it would drive me crazy because I knew in my heart what was true. They could, if they put in the work. I taught all 3 of my kids how to ride a bike. And we started with the training wheels. And it was mostly in the summertime. And Dad was out there sweating, taking the training wheels off, holding the bike seat. Anybody else do this? And you're just running behind this, trying to keep them up. And then you let go and they crash. And they scrape their knees and they cry, "Why did you make me do that? I'm going inside," whatever. But just because I knew that you can't do that now, but you will be. So I think that's a huge shift, training our own minds. Instead of saying, "I can't," ask, "How can I do this?" And that's been a huge part of me leading our church. Maybe I can't do this right now, but how can I learn how to do this better? And that put me on the solution side of things. And I think also, Derek, something that is huge when it comes to the fixed mindset is thinking through, how can I view every obstacle in my life as an opportunity? A growth mindset person has trained themselves to see obstacles as opportunities. I mean, we come up to this roadblock, what's the opportunity? Because there is an opportunity inside every single setback if we'll look for it. And it's not just, look for the silver lining. No, it's actually true. There's a problem in your life. There's a difficulty. There's a shortage of cash. Someone just resigned. Someone's not performing well in your team. You had to let them go. There's an opportunity there. And there was a time where I didn't see it that way. I just thought, here's another problem, and I'm mad, and I'm ticked because we got problems here and problems there and problems here. When are all the problems going to go away? Well, guess what? In a growing organization, they never go away. They just multiply. You still have problems, right? Do you have problems?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, we have problems. We just had one of our campus pastors resign. Great guy. There was a time in my life where I would have been mad, frustrated, angry. And now I'm like, man, this is great. An opportunity for someone else to step up and lead that campus. And so that's a huge part of, and the book that really helped me with this was The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. You guys read that? One of my favorite books. I have a copy of it in my bag in the back if you want to see it. But that's a great book on that topic. The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. And he got that title from the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, who talked a lot about that, which I'll shut up because I'll talk about him forever.
I know. Yeah, that's interesting. It's a great book. That is a great book. One of the things that you mentioned is that I think it does give you a sense of confidence too, right? Because each time you're able to achieve something, it starts to build this confidence, starts to bubble up inside you. It becomes a little bit more natural. Mm-hmm. But you've got to be open, like you said, you've got to be open to it, open to this growth, open to this, not a fixed mindset. And so, yeah, I think maybe in a sense it gets a little bit easier over time. As you say, wait, I've been through these obstacles before. So thank goodness. Yeah, it does build confidence in us. And there's some experiential learning that I think goes on. So Danny, what does the journey of developing a 10X mindset look like in terms of stages or breakthroughs? Because I think, like we just talked about, and through that learning, there's different stages. So what does that look like, for you?
Yeah, so it really does start for me with belief, and not necessarily belief in God. Yes, He has a huge part in that, in me, in my life, but also belief that what I'm trying to do is actually possible. Is it possible for our church to grow? Is it possible for my marriage to get better? Is it possible for me to be a better father across the board? And when I'm solid on that answer, yes, like this is possible. I believe this is possible with God's help. Then I move into what Brent was talking about, and also, tell me your name again.
Eutêmia.
Sorry, I didn't want to say it wrong. Eutêmia. They both mentioned it. It starts with belief and then it moves into vision. Okay, so if I believe that this can happen, what does it actually look like? And then I try to get as crystal clear on what the vision, like, so for our church, we've got a 10-year vision. Like, it's just huge. We want to launch one campus a year for the next 10 years. It's bonkers. We want to reach 20,000 people by 2035. It's huge. I have no idea how it's going to happen. It seems impossible, but we're going to go for it because there's belief, then there's vision. What does it look like? And then the next part is team. Like, who's going to help me? Because I can't do this by myself. And so that's how I start to look for the proper people or the right people to get on my team to help to fulfill the vision. And then I move into execution, which is what's the strategy? How are we actually going to execute this vision with the team that we put together? So it goes from belief to vision to team to execution for me.
Yeah, that's great. Brent?
You know, it's an interesting thing to understand if you're competent or not competent to do something. And there are 4 stages of competence. And when you talk about the bicycle, right? I mean, that's a very easy analogy to use because, you know, the child knows that, and you know, the child can't ride the bike and they kind of know they can't ride the bike. So they're consciously incompetent. And then as time goes on, we all learn. And so there's many things we don't know what we don't know. So you're unconsciously incompetent. So you don't know. But then you go through these stages. Then you realize, oh, well, no, you know, the child falls down. It's like, okay, yeah, I know, I don't know yet. But as they start to ride, then they become consciously competent because now they can ride the bike, but they have to really think hard about it. And eventually you get unconsciously competent. You guys all drove here today. Maybe some ladies put on makeup on the way, others ate something, drank a cup of coffee, you know, whatever you did, but you didn't even think about other than, oh, we're going to approve mortgages office, and you thought about that. Otherwise, you're just unconsciously competent. Well, that's also in the idea of a growth mindset because people hit ceilings because they don't know what they don't know. And it's easy to then stop there and not push forward to say, okay, who do I need to reach out to? How do I learn more? What books do I read? What do I really need to know? So a good example for myself was a few years ago, I knew I was going to become the chairman of our industry. And that would be me working with the CEOs of some of the very most largest companies in our nation, companies like ADP and other very large companies. And I think, okay, who is Brent Tilson from Greenwood, Indiana, that's going to be the chairman of this industry? And so I decided, it's like, you know, there was a leadership program put on through the Kelley School of Business, and it's through the Tobias Center, and it's on executive leadership. And so I put myself through this, spent the money to do a full year training about how to become a better leader. And I learned a lot of things in that time that helped me become consciously competent to the point I was unconsciously competent. You know, an example would be the lady who headed up theater for Harvard came and spent 2 days with us. And so she was very intentional about when you're in a meeting that you scoot up, and you sit on the edge of your chair. You talk with your hands, you're being opening, you're all the things you do, because theater applies in business as well. So the idea here was, okay, Brent, if you're going to lead this group, I need to understand how to be authoritative. And if I need to, I stand right up because I wasn't sitting in the back of my chair. And now I have more authority because I'm standing above you. But I wouldn't have known to do that because I hadn't gone through any of that formal education to know. So it's about what is it in your life that you need to be prepared for the future and say, I know I need to advance my knowledge so that I can be consciously competent and then someday not even think about standing on stage in front of thousands of people and speaking. And so I think it really is about how do you prepare yourself for the future so that you don't hit those ceilings.
That's great in terms of stages, and love hearing about, you know, ways that you invested in yourself. I mean, yeah, that's one of, I think, you know, a lot of people, a lot of thought leaders, you hear, you know, Herjavec, what's the guy from Shark Tank? He talks about this, taking the time to invest in yourself. So it's so important, because otherwise it's hard to hit that next stage. If you hadn't done that training, where would you be?
And
how
that's why they readers are leaders.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's good.
Because I know you read how many books a year?
Probably about 20, 24 books.
Yeah, and it's intentional, right?
Two a month.
And it's very intentional.
Yeah. It's super intentional.
I don't know how he gets through them at Starbucks with so many interruptions. That's what I can't quite figure out.
Well, to be fair, I listen as I read. So Audible helps me keep on pace.
Oh, there you go. There you go. I always feel so bad because he's got like a line of people at Starbucks. But yeah. Eutêmia, how about yourself? Those stages and reaching that next level.
Just like I said before, I'm just gonna piggyback to what I said before. It starts, like they both say, it starts with the belief that you have, followed by the action, and just consuming all the content that it will take you to the next level. Learning as much as you can. I believe it in my case, because I'm very spiritual. I fully believe in frequency and setting yourself up with the frequency of whatever you want, especially with the frequency of authenticity, which is said to be the highest frequency there is. And once you tune into that, you become just this large magnet for everything that you want and everything that you desire. It just automatically comes to you because you have that frequency. You become a giant magnet.
When you say that magnet, do you think is that to you? Is that laws of attraction? Like you've read maybe
Yes.
the book The Secret?
Yes.
So is that what you mean?
Yes,
Okay.
pretty much. Like what you put out is what you attract. And just being able to, first of all, visualize your goals, and then sit into that frequency of authenticity. I have this practice that I do every day. In order for me to stay balanced on my frequency of authenticity, I always envision this white light coming from God to my crown chakra, and then coming all the way down my body, going all the way to the center of the earth, connecting to the heart of Mother Nature, and then flowing back up, and then exiting from my heart chakra, and then emitting all that I am and all of me that is connected with God. That's my frequency. And then I envision a lot of unconditional love coming out of my, unconditional love for everything, everyone around me, for nature, for everything. And that puts into the frequency that, God sent you in here. We're all love. That's what we are, in the world, and everything takes us off of that frequency. But when we set into that frequency of authenticity, and we put in the actions towards our goals, it's just everything just comes. Like, I'm sorry, you guys will think that I'm a little crazy, but I fully,
it's
I'm
like
a
that
living proof of this.
it's that emoji is mind blowing, so hearing this, so that's good. No, that's good.
I've had like in my last relationship, he used to tell me, like, you are insane. You live life through this rose-colored glass, and you see the good in everything, the good in everyone, and you think everything is just gonna fall into place. And I was like, hasn't it?
You're right.
Literally,
Right. Right.
everything. I'm very calm. I don't stress with much. Whenever a problem comes, first of all, I surrender, I give it to God, and I just set into my frequency. I know, I trust that whatever it's meant for me, it's gonna come. As long as I surrender, I, make the conscious steps to get myself there. But I just sit and wait, and things literally just fall into my lap. I don't know how to.
Now I want to bring something up, because that does, it's interesting, because when you're starting a business, or a church or an organization, there's a lot of action. All of you talked about action in order to get that confidence, that belief, the faith, but there's got to be actions along the way. It is interesting how to balance your mindset and waiting for it to happen, and versus you still have to take action.
Mhm.
I've heard Danny talk about, well, you just need about 10,000 hours and you can be, you can be good at anything, So, I mean, is it 10,000? Is that right? Yeah. About 10,000 hours. And
I didn't make that up.
no, I know. But he's talked about that in sermons. But what kind of a role, how do you balance between when you say, okay, I've got to push. Like I remember those, Brent and I had young families, we were growing the business, we were pushing maybe sometimes too hard, working too much. But how do you balance that between, having this mindset and waiting and not forcing it, but yet I still got to put some valiant effort to reach these big 10x goals.
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
Are you asking me?
Sure.
Yeah. So that's a great question. From my perspective, a biblical perspective, what I would say is that I believe that God has sent Jesus to this earth to die on a cross to save humanity from their sins and give them eternal life. And that's what he wants to do. Regardless if we run a business or a church or whatever, that's the plan. Like, that's why we're here. And he's going to come back one day. And but I cannot physically save somebody. I can't talk them into it, convince them. All I can do is tell them the message. And then relying upon God's Spirit to produce the conviction and to turn their life over to Christ. And so there's this balance of, man, I am working so hard to get this sermon dialed in. And I want the bathrooms clean, and I want the music to be spot on, and I want the lights to be right. And I want greeters at the front door. I want a parking team to get people parked. We even bought a new golf cart this week. Really nice golf cart, because people are parking like way out there and it's cold, and we want people to be brought in and have this great customer service experience. And we do all of that work across 8 campuses, and yet the end result is not in my hands. I can't do it. And so for me, it's a lot of pastors will just say, well, we're just going to have church and we're just going to let the Holy Spirit do the work. And they don't study that well. The church stinks. The bathrooms are not clean. There's no greeting at the front door. And they're like, we don't know what's going on. God's not growing our church. Well, bro, it's a partnership.
Right.
And so for me, it's like, we need massive amounts of effort, but at the same time, we're relying upon God to do all of the true heavy lifting, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's just from my leading a church perspective. So we don't slack on the effort.
Right.
We put in tons of hours to make sure everything is as good as it can possibly be, but then we trust him for the results.
Right. Hey, Timo, what do you think when it comes to the action? And because a lot of business owners talk about grinding. You hear that word? You got to grind, but this balance of,
I believe it's a lot more about alignment than it's about hard work. I feel like, whenever you have that mindset, I have to work hard to achieve this goal. I have to work hard. Then what does the universe do? Okay, more hard work for you. I'm going to give you more scenarios, more situation for you to work hard, because hard work is what you believe into it. I like I say, you guys may think I'm crazy. I'm a little like, of course, action is important. Like I say, act like, the person that you want to become. Take the physical actions to it. But I think the alignment is even more important than the physical action, because if you keep, it's almost like, in my perspective, whenever we think I have to work hard, that's a scarcity mindset, because it's like, I don't believe that I deserve this and this will just come to me flawlessly. Does it make sense?
It does now. It didn't 5 years ago,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Can I interject on that?
Yeah,
I don't want to argue with you
absolutely.
at all, because that's not why we're here. But I always think about church or even life as a farmer. Like, that farmer has got to get out there and he's got to plow his fields. He's got to plant that seed and he's got to fertilize that stuff. And he's got to spray the chemicals on there, unfortunately, chemicals to keep the bugs away. He can't just say, I got a field and God's going to give me a harvest because I'm going to sit in my office and dream about it. It's not going to happen. You got to get out there and you got to. So, and I think all of life, like the Bible teaches, we reap what we sow. So if you put in the effort, now God's part is supernatural. I'm not going to like, you can't, this is not a self-help effort here or self-help program. But if you view life as a farmer and you have these fields, even with a marriage, like the reason our marriage for 26 years into this now, the reason why we're best friends and we're buds is because we have invested time over years into this relationship. I didn't just sit and think about or even pray about having a good marriage. No, we actually did the work. And so I think there's a balance there, but I'm not trying to argue.
Well, I mean, a great, the talents, you know, I always think about that, you know, you can't just bury your talents and expect God to deliver. Yes. So, I mean, you got to go out and invest those and you put some action to it. So Brent, what do you think about that?
Yeah. You speak up.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. I think about, you know, you learn from your own mistakes, right? You hope to. And I think back over the years of how many hours that Derek, we probably spent more time in the office than we should have, right? Because we were pushing so hard and I was running a couple different companies at the same time. And, you know, and we've all kind of overextended ourselves in different situations. So there's that balance. But, you know, what I've learned over time, and I did bring some copies of my book. If anybody wants to get a copy here, I don't think I have enough for everybody, but I'll get you one. But in my book, the reason I titled it Go Slow to Grow Fast was, you know, a lot of times people don't take the time to invest and really have the operations and the systems so that they can scale their business successfully. Oftentimes it's all about growth and they go and work. And they don't ever slow down and stop and think, okay, what are the things I need to invest in so that I can work smarter and not harder? And we often hear that. And what happens is that so many businesses I work with, I see them just grinding it, having huge expectations out of their staff and endless hours and no life. And yet they're like, what's wrong with our morale? Well, really? Look at what you're doing to everybody, because you're not slowing down and really thinking about how do I get to this next stage? But yet that's the freedom. If you do slow down, is then you can really plan accordingly and do the things you need to do to scale and to grow. I mean, I get frustrated at times. I meet with businesses and they're just stuck. And they're like, you know, I haven't grown in years. You know, they're still sitting there at 5 employees and they just can't figure out why they're not able to get bigger. And as we start, you know, peeling back the onion and I start asking questions, it starts making them uncomfortable. But oftentimes they've limited themselves. They've turned themselves into a fixed mindset because they haven't been putting the right effort in the right places to scale and grow their businesses. And they're just stuck. And they just think that more hours is going to be a better crop, not necessarily knowing, no, there's other things you have to do to make sure that you're planting in the good field, right? You put it in the wrong field. You're over here in, you know, the clay and not the good soil. So I think about just working smarter is a good way to approach it.
That's good. And daily or weekly practices, is there something that you do as a daily or weekly practice to keep this alignment? So what does that look like? You've talked about a little bit about it.
Gratitude.
Okay.
For everything that I already have, because that will attract more things for me to be grateful for. That's the first thing when I wake up. Before I even open my eyes, I thank God for everything that is here already for me. And I also, in my mind, I declare how my day is going to be. So I already set that, you know, the mindset of like, my day is, I'm going to have a great day today. I'm going to have a day full of opportunities. It's going to be a peaceful one, because that trains your subconscious mind to look for those things. When you, especially like when you fall asleep and when you first wake up, you still in that, your subconscious mind is very adaptable to suggestions. So once you put that in your subconscious mind, then your subconscious is going to look for actions and reasons. You declare that your day is going to be good, so you're going to automatically see good things.
Right.
You know.
That's good. That's good.
That's my practice.
How did that get to be a habit? How did it get to be automatic?
I've just been doing it for years. Once I started seeing the results of my business, whenever everybody called me crazy, and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna put everything that I've learned through the years into practice, and let me see if I can grow with this mindset. And once I started seeing the results, I was like, why would I not do
You
this
tell
every day?
I'm not crazy after all, right?
Yes.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good.
A lot of people think I'm crazy, but it works.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, Brent, how about you? What are some ways that you've instilled this, mindset in your daily life?
So mine, I'm going to once again go back and make it more of an organizational perspective. So something that I have done in my company for, I can't tell you, 20 years, is we have a very consistent rhythm and communication amongst the entire company. And so it starts out on Monday mornings with just the senior team for an hour meeting. It's very specific of how we run it. And it's all about, what goals for the week. We go around with there's a whole process to it. And then from that, then the managers all meet. So we're able to just dispel this information. And so we just plan the week out of the gate. So we're communicating throughout the entire company. And ultimately there's meetings at each of the department levels by noon. So by Monday morning by noon, the entire company's in alignment. But then also every morning, and we set a time at 8:18 every morning for, I don't know how many years, long time. We had a 15-minute huddle with my senior team. And you only had 15 minutes, and we would make sure we're all in alignment, but it gave everybody a chance to talk about what stucks they have, because stucks are what slows things down. And so we always wanted to make sure we were keeping things moving. And that just became a rhythm. And so we have this communication rhythm. Departments had their huddles. And the whole idea was to get people, once again, I said it before, get your eyes from down up. So that was a time every day for my company to get organized and look eyes up and say, okay, what are we heading for? What are we doing? What's important? I can tell you more about it, but it was a very good thing organizationally for us to do, because it was just a practice and a habit to the point where the 8:18 for the huddles became, almost like your day was not right if you didn't get on that call and just have that quick update. And then you could find out where people are, where their heads are, if they've got issues and family issues, and life happens, and, death and this and this. And it's just like, oh, glad to know where you are, because I can understand how my staff and how people are running, or they may let me know of something I didn't know of. And it was very helpful because it just helped us as a organization breathe.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Danny, how about your weekly practice?
Yeah, so there are two things I'll mention. So I start my day the same way every single day, and I use the YouVersion Bible app, which just crossed 1 billion downloads. Did you guys hear about that?
Wow.
Just bonkers, and they give it away for free. And so if you don't have that Bible app, it's YouVersion. And so on my app, I have a streak right now. It's at 1,199 days in a row. And the reason that's not larger is because I went on a mission trip and I didn't have Wi-Fi and I couldn't get connected. It broke my streak. Now, I don't read the Bible for that purpose, but it's kind of fun to see that. But the reason I bring that up is because I have this daily ritual where I get into God's word, and what he does is he just aligns me and reinforces me in me the belief, that my calling, what I'm supposed to be doing, maybe he'll give me a truth to adjust my life to. And so that is a huge part of maintaining the belief and the hope and the vision of what he's called me to do. But then secondly, organizationally, like Brent, I have a weekly meeting with my leadership team, and we have basically chopped up our year into quarters. And we follow a system called EOS, which is from a book called Traction. And each Tuesday, we go over our quarterly goals to make sure that our church is on track for the yearly goal, which is part of what helps us get to the 3-year goal, which is what will help us get to the 10-year goal. And so that meeting, a big part of that meeting is checking on basically, we call it the scorecard. How are we doing? How we have these numbers that we chart, and so that keeps our team. We don't just meet to solve problems. A lot of organizations that just say, hey, what do we got to deal with today? Well, that's like functioning like an emergency room. And a lot of churches function that way. And I'm sure a lot of businesses function. What kind of, crap do we have to deal with this week? And they're just running from one fire to another instead of focusing on, is the organization hitting its targets and hitting its goals? And that keeps our team on track for growth.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, a lot of companies utilize. Do you guys know that what we was talking about, traction and EOS and scaling up? Vern Harnish wrote that book, but yeah. So it's
Fantastic book.
Yeah, it's a great way to guide, kind of guide your activity and make sure you're focused on the right things.
That Tuesday meeting is the most important thing, other than my sermon, that I do to lead our church.
Yeah,
it is that critical.
Yeah,
it takes us about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah, I use a daily focus planner. It's a little bit. Some of my friends look like, oh, that's a little bit intense. But one of the things it does is it takes a reflection time at the end of the week. I'm reflecting on how did I do with those top three. So they say, there's a real argument whether our brain can only really focus on three things at one time. Four is too many. Maybe three is too many. Maybe one is that most important thing you're trying to achieve. But so yeah, kind of along that line, can you talk about focus and how things bubble up to the top? And do you use this top three mentality? How do you approach your day, your week, your month, your year? I think Tony Robbins said, we overestimate what we can accomplish in a year, but we far underestimate what we can accomplish in 10 or 30 years. And because a lot of that is the focus of what you're able to achieve. So how do you apply focus in your life, in your church,
on a daily basis or even quarterly basis?
Yeah. Both.
Okay. So there's another fan. I'm a huge book fan. So yeah, I'll throw another one out there for you guys to read. It's called The 4 Disciplines of Execution, and by Chris McChesney. Fantastic book. And in that book, it's similar to traction. They talk about this idea of what a lead measure is, and versus what a lag measure is. I'll define a lag measure first. A lag measure is when you get on the scale and you look down and you see a number. That's a lag measure, meaning it's lagging behind, meaning you just got a score on the scale and there's nothing you can do about it in that moment. It'd be like counting how many people were at church that day, right? How many people were, or what was the offering? That's a lag measure. Well, a lead measure is different in the sense that, hey, what would change the offering next week? What would change the scale 7 days from now? That's a different question. Well, 30 minutes of cardio, 5 days this week with 4 days of strength training with a reduction in my calories of 500. Well, if I do those 3 things for 7 days, the score is going to be different. So that's how we prioritize. What actions am I going to take today? I'm going to take actions that will actually change that number. And those are the things that rise to the surface in my life personally. My Bible study, my prayer, being in a small group with a bunch of guys, those are lead measures that are going to take me where I want to go. And we do the same thing organizationally. What are the specific actions that will change the scorecard next week? And that usually ends up being 3 or 4 things. And that's what we focus on.
Okay. Yeah. Brent, how about you? How do you utilize, well, I mean, focus. Do you have a focus? Like I was saying, focusing on, when I start my day, I have an idea like what those top 3 things are. And is there a way that you utilize focus in this abundance mindset, those things that, is that something that you apply to your life or business?
I would say historically, yes. I'm kind of in a weird spot right now because of all the things I used to do, I don't do anymore. So, after, this transaction with my company, I'm no longer responsible for operations. So it specifically says your job is not operations. So, okay.
What are you going to do?
What am I going to do? I've run a company for 30 years. I'm used to making these decisions. I'm used to setting, the vision and the path forward. So it's really kind of an interesting question, Derek, because
there's one thing I want to mention, that the most focused I've ever seen you is when you wrote your book.
Mm-hmm.
You carved out, that was so important. Yeah. So
I'll talk about that. So it's an interesting question because right now, going back to a question earlier, it's like, okay, I'm at a very unusual point in my life. And so it's like, okay. But when I wrote my book, it's one of these things that you don't I didn't know what I didn't know, going back to the stages of competence. And I quickly found out that when I first started, I just didn't know what I didn't know about writing a book. And then as I got further into it, I realized I didn't know that I didn't know. And then I started working on it. And so then I got to the point where I had to literally just carve out a day a week. And I sat at a little card table in my basement, literally a card table. Wasn't anything comfortable, uncomfortable card table chair with my little Mac. And I sat there and just wrote. But it took so much effort to really get dialed in and focused, because in the end, I wanted a good quality product that I could be proud of. And so I had a writing coach I worked with Forbes, and it took a solid year and a half of discipline to get it done. And Danny and I, at the same time, were both trying to encourage each other to write our books. We talked about it, and I think I beat you, but not by much.
You did get me.
But we had a lot of fun pushing.
And I do want to acknowledge that this is before Chat GPT,
Yes.
and so
We
so
actually
that
wrote
they
the words.
really wrote the book.
Really
so,
sat down and wrote the book. But yeah, no, it was the discipline, because you have, but in the end, it's going back to the question. I think it's, what is the goal that's in mind? And what do you have to do each and every day? Going back to what you said, I knew the book wasn't going to get written just thinking, oh, it's going to get written. No, I had to know what was the discipline it was going to take. Maybe it's just 4 paragraphs. Yes, it took me 8 hours to get 4 paragraphs, but it took me some days that much time. And other days it would just come naturally just out. But it really does, setting goals and objectives and really taking the steps to get there. And that's how I stay focused. And over the years, it's evolved. I mean, there are years where there's a goal that's one specific goal. There are years that we're changing, and it really has a lot to do with the strategic planning that, we do every year. And that's how I would keep my focus, was really go off site, spend the time, set my goals for the year. What's the big, hairy, audacious goal for the year? What are we driving for? And then the scorecards that Danny talked about, that's what allowed us to stay highly focused, is, okay, what are the things we're measuring? And we have a red, yellow, green. And the idea is, if it's red, it's just, you didn't get it done. Green means, or super green was, yes, you're hitting your numbers and doing it. And you knew if it was red, that whatever goal that was, you're not going to achieve it unless you just get lucky, which really doesn't happen. And so for us, the scorecard is a very critical thing as a company. And now I'm at this next stage of my life where I'm thinking, okay, how do I start measuring that success now? So it's just an interesting question right now.
Yeah. Eutêmia, how do you select the things that you focus on? How do you gain focus?
To meditation.
Through meditation.
Daily, first thing, I wake up first thing in the morning, I meditate, and I, ask God to be a vessel for his work every day, to be whatever he wants to use me for, him to, I would just follow, just embody that. Meditation for me, it's a must. It helps me to stay focused and, on my goals, and to stay aligned with everything that I want to achieve. So that's my.
Then do you write those goals? Are they written goals? You do? Yeah, and you write goals too.
I write my goals.
Do you think that's powerful? The
Oh, for
written
sure.
goals?
Yeah, because it's kind of like, it's the action you get in then you put into action, and then you take the physical steps that you can with what you have at the time to get into that point.
Right.
So that's my main thing. It's meditation. It's number one for me.
Do you ever get to a point, you guys, where maybe you've been at this a while? There's some people that are younger than me in the group, and maybe I don't know, but I mean, you probably have experienced the same thing. But certainly, as you get older, you go, "Wow, I never dreamed like I would be here." I mean, yeah, I thought it, but I mean, oh wow, I'm here, and then there's a little bit of guilt that creeps in to go, "Oh, now I want more." I want to go to the next rung. Do you ever think that? Do you ever think like, should I keep striving for more? Or should I just be satisfied? Especially about grateful. But you ever go through this wrestle in your mind? Do I really want more? You're not going to admit it, are you? Anybody, whoever wants to respond first. But I've had this thought in my own mind, that I think, oh, wow. I mean, this is a life that even beyond what I could have imagined. And then, sometimes, a little bit, I feel a little bit selfish because I'm like, now I want more, but I think maybe it's just in the human spirit that we constantly, are striving to become that better version, of ourselves. Great. Yeah. So I don't know.
So I'll take a stab at it. So it's a yes and no. For me, it's been interesting because I think about it from there's a concept of being independently sovereign. And most people haven't thought about what does it mean to be sovereign. And I've told, younger professionals over the years that, it's hard to create wealth on a W-2. It's just very difficult because you're limited by whatever you're, being paid. I mean, people have done it. It's difficult. And so for myself, this concept of being independently sovereign is the idea of how can I create wealth to the point that at some point I am independent. And so the question isn't necessarily, do I have enough or stop? It's like, how do I continue creating this value? And now there does become a point though, where you start measuring risk versus assets. And I remember at one point, my real estate business partner and I were applying for a loan to build, I think it was a medical pavilion down off Stones Crossing. And the bank comes back and said, I'm sorry, we can't loan you guys this money to build this building. We're like, why? Well, because collectively, the two of you have the largest debt that we have on our books is you. So the two of you have more debt than anybody else collectively with our real estate. It's like, ooh, that made me feel a little uncomfortable. It's like, how much debt do I have? And so there was a day we'd sold the medical pavilions, and it felt good because we could have done more, but it's like, okay, no, let's take and reduce some debt. Let's get a little more stable. So to me, it was a matter of trying to figure out how much risk am I willing to take? How comfortable am I? And then you get to the point where you start trying to be very much more strategic in investments and plans. Like when I built my building a couple of years after you built this one, people thought I was crazy. Like, why would you build a Class A office building in Greenwood on I-65? No one's going to be there. Why? Who would do that? And so, but our building's full and we have great tenants, but yet they made fun of me. It was like a big risk. So the thing is, I could have easily stopped back then. That was 15 years ago, but I took a chance. And I will continue to, but it becomes much more strategic about trying to create that independence.
Well, Dave Ramsey would have been relieved when you sold that building, paid off that
Trust
debt.
me.
I mean, like, oh my gosh. My son-in-law and we have a lot of debates over Dave Ramsey and his all approach, so because I got a little bit of debt. I got a little bit of debt.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a new panel event, good debt versus bad.
I love
debt.
that.
So that would be a good topic. So yeah, but I agree with Dave Ramsey. A lot of
50-year mortgage or 30-year.
Easy now. Don't throw tomatoes. So hold on. So I don't know where I'm at on that. I'm still like, I just did a post about that yesterday.
I know you did.
Yes. I think that's interesting.
That's a great topic.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, debt, like then that's part of it. Like, right. Like, oh, should I really keep moving forward? Some of these thoughts creep in your mind. I'm being like really vulnerable here, but I mean, I think about some of those things, and then you think too, like in the world, this comes up a lot. Like, oh, there's all these billionaires, so much focus on billionaires today, and then, well, if they didn't take so much in the world, wouldn't there be more for everybody else? Have you ever thought about this? Like, is that a fallacy or is that true? And so it's really is interesting, isn't it? Like what resources are available and so what makes that person, continue to strive to want more, to go to the next level. And I think it's something God put in us, you want to continue to grow. But I just think it's sometimes these things get in my head. I think about it because I hear pundits, I hear people online and they say this, like, well, if those billionaires didn't have so much, if they didn't create so much, then there'd be more for all of us. Like, well, I don't know. They were a really big job creator. I mean, they created jobs and, tens of thousands of jobs. But it's an interesting, and is that a fixed versus growth mindset? So
I would argue that it is totally fixed, because the way that money works, and you know this, people who say those types of things, they're thinking of money as if it's a pie, and there's only so much pie. And these guys over here, these billionaires, these evil billionaires, they got too big of a piece. So that leaves only a little bit left. Well, that's not how money works.
we keep printing pie.
Money is created. Money is generated by adding value.
Yeah.
So if you
Right.
keep adding value, you're going to make more money. So that's it is totally a fixed mindset. When it comes to church, it's an interesting. I've faced this, I guess, critique many times actually. Well, why do you want to launch another campus?
Yeah.
Don't you have enough already? How big of a church do you want to have? When is the church going to get too big? And my pushback is always, again, this is just from a biblical pastoral perspective, is, well, how many people does Jesus want to save? And then usually I get crickets. Because the answer to that question is, for God so loved the world that he gave his one and only son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. Like, he actually wants to save the whole world. So when should we stop as a church trying to launch campuses? Like, at what point? 20,000, 50,000? I mean, how many people are in the world, right? So there's 8 billion people. So I mean, from my perspective, I have zero guilt. Right. I dealt with that several years ago. I'm not doing this for ambition. I'm not doing this to be famous. I'm doing this because people need to know Jesus. So let's launch another one.
Right.
You know, so now on a personal side, with our personal finances, or even just in general, I came across a quote last month, and this just helped me so much. This quote says, "You can render to God and humanity no greater service than to make the most of yourself." Now, I've never been able to articulate it that way before, but I have always felt that inside of me. Even when it comes to like personal achievements. One time I ran a marathon. Why did I run a marathon? I want to see if I could do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or one time we did my buddy Michael's here. We did a competition to see how lean we could get and how fit we could get. Why? Well, I wanted to see what our potential was. I wanted to see where's the line. So there's something, I think, wired inside of us that we want, and we should want to reach our potential. And I actually think it's irresponsible of humans to not try to reach their potential. I think it's lazy, and it's a scarcity mindset. So my thinking is, you know, how far can we grow as long as the motive is right and pure?
Right.
I think if that's my sacrifice to God, if that's my worship to God, I think he's all for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And how about yourself? Do you ever think these thoughts? What are your thoughts about?
I don't, because like I say, I believe if it's in here, it's from God, and it just means, okay, you reach this level. Now we're going to the next one, you know.
Right.
Just gear up.
No
with
guilt. No guilt. No shame. No, not selfish. Yeah.
Like, we're all meant to be abundant. There's enough for everybody plus more.
Right.
So
Yeah.
just get rid of that.
That's good.
It's
Get
not
rid of that
good.
thinking. They say stinking thinking, right?
Yes.
So yeah, that's right. So we'll get rid of that. Can you share an example of a time when, and Eutêmia, I'll ask you if you can share an example of a time when you reframed a problem, you know, with a 10x, you know, abundant mindset to maybe overcome that situation and reach your intended result?
Can you?
Yeah. So just curious if there was a time when, I guess because all of us, we get roadblocks, and was there a time that before, I guess, you were as confident as you are now? And I'm always looking for practical examples that people can utilize. Like you gave a great example about, you know, before when you wake up, when you go to sleep, you're talking about your gratefulness and so forth. Are there other techniques, reframing a problem, looking at it upside down, another approach that you have to getting to that 10x mindset, maybe early on or maybe even now?
I feel like problems are just like new ways for us. How can I explain? For us to figure out like new solutions. Problems are not like a bad thing. It's just like a puzzle that we need to solve to obtain more knowledge, you know, and to to take us to the next level,
Right.
into the next step.
Yeah. Problems, overcoming them are part of the growth. It's like
the growth,
a staircase.
yes,
Climbing.
yes.
Yeah.
It's part of the process.
Yeah.
No, we're humans having a human experience. So
Right.
life is never happening to us, it's always happening for us. So even the problems, if we have the right mindset, it's great, like you're supposed to learn something new in that scenario. Because if you were in your comfort zone, you
Right.
would have never, so it's taken you out of your comfort zone, shake things up to make you find the solution, then you elevate.
Yeah.
So,
That's true. You have to get uncomfortable. There's a lot of times in life where something becomes uncomfortable, but that's part of the growth. That's a great, that's a
growing
great point.
pains, when you're at the gym, you gotta hurt in order for the muscle to grow. Same thing with
Right.
everything in life. So,
Right.
it's-
Brent, you have any thoughts on that? An obstacle? I mean, I don't know if do you have any obstacles in your business?
I don't ever have
No.
obstacles, none. So what I try to do is, and this is a Six Sigma type thing, but try to instill that you need to ask why 5 times. And oftentimes I see issues that happen. So one of the things we did in my company some years ago is we implemented, there's 5 types of errors that can happen, and or organizational dysfunction, we could put it that way as well. So a level 1 error is if it was financial or regulatory and an actual client or employee was affected. So think about an employee who didn't get their paycheck. Well, that's a problem. Why didn't they get their paycheck? And so I would challenge because this happened every day. I mean, with a company the size of volume we do, we operate in 50 states, and we have regulations out that what, and we have compliance and employment, and it's just there's a lot going on. And we just instilled this discipline that we reported on these errors every day. And then once a week, well, we had a team that would go through them, but I would challenge, we'd go through, okay, we've got to find out why did this happen? So level 1's always work the level 1's, because if we can fix it, then we can get better every day. So 1% improvement every day is over 300% improvement a year, right? So how do we make sure we're doing better every day? And mistakes happen every day. And so by asking why 5 times, we'd get down to the root cause of what it was. Oftentimes people just want to take the very first answer as the answer. It's like, no, that's really not it. And in my book, I have a fun little analogy or story about how, why they would cut off both ends of the ham when they put them into the oven before, for Thanksgiving for cooking. And the story was, let's call grandma and find out. And you go back and ask why 5 times, you find out, well, she had to cut off both sides of the ham because her oven was so small that the ham wouldn't fit. It's the only reason she cut them off. So for generations, people cut off, half of the ham. Well, it's like, why? Get to the root problem of what the issue is. And you ask if there's a specific one. There are thousands, literally thousands of times we would go through these exercises and find out. And it's not always human error. Everybody wants to go to human error. And I'm like, no, it's process. It's process. There's got to be something wrong, because we should take all potential of mistakes out if we just follow the right processes. And that's how we dealt with it, trying to really instill this just investigative questioning of when issues arise, and they do, and they always will. And that can help, the 10X idea, because now the organization is healthy and strong. Going back to your analogy of the muscle, it's healthy and strong, so we can run faster and more efficient and more effective. And if I'm efficient and effective, I can 10X that every day. So at one point, we used to have a lot of employees who did nothing but employee benefits because everything was manual. Well, now we got to the point where when we do open enrollment for benefits, it's not even, no one even feels it. I mean, we've put so many systems in place that we can literally enroll thousands and thousands and thousands of employees in benefits and do everything we need to do. And it's like, did that happen last weekend? Yeah, it did. But we put so much energy. That's where we 10X'd it, was just by doing the things you had to do, the hard work to get to that point.
Well, one of the things you mentioned about in that meeting, and you're going through that process. I heard Jeff Bezos talk about also being nimble. As a large company, companies can start to move really slow. He said, we only need to be about 80% sure, but we got to keep moving, because, he's like, it was a crazy idea to, come up with this idea of, Prime to be, free shipping. It was a crazy idea at the moment. So he's like, but if it didn't work, we make the decision. We're 80% sure. We make the decision. And if it's wrong, we pivot. But
Well, I mean,
otherwise, you can take forever and never
anything.
move, right?
be asking
Do
the right-
nothing.
You got to be asking the right questions, right? So this isn't mine, but it's an example. So my business coach did ask this question of Crew Car Wash and Mike's at the time. What do we do about increasing sales? Because in Indiana, people don't want to go to the car wash if it's going to rain tomorrow, right? And Craig, my coach, said he was in the meeting with them asking the questions, and they were not asking the right question. And they realized that's how they came up with the membership. The VIP club, whatever it's called, was like, oh, we've got to we got to monetize. So that's a great example of a story that the coach asked the right question. The leadership team was not solving the right problem. And then they realized, and then it's exponentially changed their industry. And so for all of us here today, when you think about it, it's like, ask the right questions. That's how you overcome in 10X.
Oh, we did that. Would drive me crazy. Group of CEOs, we were in Vistage, and the coach would say, oh, ask the clarifying questions, restate the question. We're like, I want to solve the answer. I want to solve now. We were all ready with the solutions, but a lot of times you're right. We weren't asking the right question.
You got to ask that question.
So that's a great point. Danny?
Yeah, the example that comes to my mind of, and this was not easy, but you guys know that lots of churches, lots of businesses closed their doors during COVID, right? They did not survive. And I thought to myself, gosh, how is our church going to survive during COVID? I mean, churches need to meet in physical, they need to meet in person. And so the government shut down and we couldn't meet for however many weeks in a row. I think everybody had their pity party, like, woe is me, this is the end. I don't know what I'm going to do. And so we did that for a couple of days, and then we gathered our team together. And here's what we asked ourselves, because this is what the growth mindset forces you to ask. Where's the opportunity in this obstacle? And we didn't see it. We're like, I don't know. We can't meet. We need to meet, and we cannot meet. This is a huge problem. And so our team kept talking, and we said, man, there's got to be something we can do. And basically what we said was, what if we just poured a bunch of time and effort and money into our online experience? And we started talking, and all of a sudden creative thoughts started coming up. We can get more cameras. We could flip the camera around. You can speak 10 feet away from the camera. We could get different lighting. We can hire a campus pastor to host it. And we just started running, because we did ask the right question. Where is the opportunity in this obstacle? And so for however many weeks it was, gosh, 8-9 weeks, I spoke directly into a camera and continued to pastor our church. And we were one of the first churches to get back to full attendance in Indiana, because we did not miss a beat. And everyone was, being discouraged. And to be quite honest, a lot of churches never really, even those that are still in existence, they still have not fully recovered from the COVID experience because they didn't see it as an opportunity. So that's our example. We got to ask that question: where's the opportunity in this obstacle?
That's great. What about leading people? So now we've talked a lot about personally us. What about leading people and instilling this in other people? How do you do that? Because it's great, once you have this enlightened, understanding about what it means to have an abundance mindset, but then how do you share that with maybe those leadership people, the people on your team? How do you approach that? So, because I know there's some people here that they have employees and that they have people, and we all have family, right? Would we like to influence some of our family? You have kids, or grandkids, maybe for some of you. But how do you approach this for others?
I'll say something really quick, and then I'll pass it off to you guys. I think one of the most important things to develop a growth mindset in your kids, or on your team, or your staff, or even in your marriage, and this is tough to do because I am a results-oriented person. I want to hit a target. And if I don't have a target, I'm not happy. And so it's hard to do this, but if you can train yourself to celebrate and reward effort, not results. because that's where the growth mindset. It's like, okay, you didn't like for 10 years, I tried to write a book. Like you guys, some of you had to sit through that every year. I'd make a New Year's resolution. I'm going to write a book this year. And that would be a total fail. I would mess it up. Right. And I would fail. But there was things I was learning through those 10 years, and I continued to stick at it and I tried to fall in love with the process instead of just focusing on, did I make the goal? Did I hit the result? And so this is so important for kids because they are in a results-oriented environment all day with school and grades. And what did you get 100 on that test? Did you get an A? Oh, you got a C? Oh, you're this or that. And so learning to celebrate effort. And even if you fail, you say, man, you didn't make it yet. And that goes back to the phrase, not yet. So just kind of training the people around you and even yourself to celebrate and reward the process, not just the result.
Great. Brent?
Yeah, I think that's probably can be one of the most challenging things to do as a leader, is to instill growth. I mean, it's a challenge. It's something that as a leader, we have to do every day with our teams, and recognizing people are where they are. So like in my case, I have somebody who comes in and worked with me for 18 years, and she processes payroll every day for 18 years, and she's great at what she does. And does she want to then be the department manager? No, she has no desire to be the department manager. She's completely happy and excited to take care of her customers, and feels like she is. I mean, she's such an important piece of what we do. And so you have people like, this individual, and just, wonderful. And then I have other people who come in and have such aspirations that you can't hardly slow them down. It's like, you will be a manager. You've only been here 3 weeks. Give it a minute. We'll work on it. But we find those individuals who really have this aspiration for growth, and we support that. And we want to understand and balance both, supporting those who really, it's not they have a fixed mindset. They just are comfortable and really want to do well and just be good at what they do. And then we have the others who it's like, okay, let's put you on a path to get there. So a great story is, I had an individual join me a little over 10 years ago as my accountant. She came in as like the accounting manager, and was really discouraged because she was used to wearing jeans every day, and did she really have to come in the office? And she was happy working from home, but okay, I guess I'll come in the office. And she did. Well, all of a sudden, what we do, because of her being in accounting, she took on this role, and she just loved it. And so then I really wanted to encourage that one, because she just was really good. Well, she grew all the way up to become our CFO over 10 years, got her on the board of directors of our industry, and was pushing her to do things that she never dreamed she would do. And so now she has left, and she's gone, and she's helping a startup company get started in our industry. And here's a person who would never have done that 10 years ago. And so for me, it's just investing in people and understanding and trying to help where they are, to encourage and then give them the resources to be successful, but then also challenge them to not be satisfied with where they are.
That's great. Eutêmia, what about you? Influencing others, helping them reach new levels?
Employees. I have kids.
Clients?
My clients too.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I feel like a good way to motivate people, it's to focus on the good things that they already have there to show up. Like with my kids, for example, when they do something good, I praise that as much as possible, because we all have a tendency, when somebody values something in us, the tendency is we want to show more of that to people, right? When somebody praises. So I feel like that's a good way to work with people in general. Just focus on the good that they have, praise them there, then they're gonna, believe in themselves. And then they also gonna, oh my gosh, I want to show you that I can do more.
Right.
So
enabling them, praising them in the right areas,
yes.
that, so that they feel recognition,
Yes.
and they want to continue to achieve in that area.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
I have I used to be a ballerina, and my coach was like the biggest like cheerleader that I ever had in my life, because she believed in me so much. I didn't see the potential in myself, and she always saw, she always praised the good, and she always also like gave me like high expectations to meet. But because she was always praising the good in me,
Right.
I wanted to prove it to her that I
Yeah.
could be that person that she wanted to be, and she like got me into a really high level of
Yeah.
that. So I think it's a good way.
You think about that along the way, there's a lot of people that have that, oh, if it wasn't for that person, this person, but maybe when you didn't have, you needed that encouragement. You go, man, I need somebody that believes in me before I believed in myself,
There's an interesting business principle, and it's about doing things through people, not to them.
Mm-hmm.
And think about a 1-year-old. It's inborn, right? People don't like things done to them. You tell, and then for a child, okay, go to your room. No. Or we have to do this, just even changing their diaper. No, whatever it may be. Well, you think about it as you're leading people. If you do things to people, you tell them what to do, how to do things, how to do this, don't do that. And you're doing it to them. All you're going to do is just push people into more of a fixed mindset of, well, I don't want to do anything. But if you come along beside them and say, hey, Denny, let's go see if we can get this done. Do you think you can stretch and do that? Not tell you, hey, you have to go do that.
Mhm.
It's amazing what happens when you recognize just the natural principle that doing things through them. And that's how you can drive growth.
The other thing you taught me too is the with them.
Yeah, what's in it for me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Because sometimes you have to explain that. You're like, oh, I sometimes instinctively, I think, well, they already know. But no, sometimes you have to, the light bulb doesn't go on. You're like, this is good for you because.
That's exactly right.
So yeah,
Well,
what's in it for them, with them?
Yeah. Sorry.
Like that.
It's good. We're going to do a question answer. This is one of the most recent books I read. I had some plane time. I really like that now. And so I'm a slow reader, but I did make it through this book. 10X is easier than 2X. One of the things it talks about when we talk about building up people and growing people, inspiring them, believing in them before maybe they even believe in themselves, but is having people replace you in your life. And they ultimately become better at that skill, that task than maybe you are yourself. And so that's a lot of times what it takes to get to that next level. They use in the book an example of, I think maybe she was at Keller Williams and it was an example they used. And, she had to keep replacing herself as the realtor, as the sales manager, as the regional manager. And now I think her group does like $9 billion a year in real estate sales or something. I know there's some real estate in here that might find that interesting. So that's in the book, but it's about, you do have to go through this replacement, that you have to replace yourself. I'm sure that happened with your staff, Danny. When you go your multiple campuses, you can no longer do the same things that you used to do. So you have to start to change what your daily procedures look like. And so other talented people have to step up. You have to be willing to pay them, well for their talent. And then, that's a challenge, that hurts a little bit. Maybe you guys have gone through that and grown, organizations, and then, but that frees you up then to be able to go to that next level.
So good.
But that's such a process, such a journey, and the learning that goes on, like I said, it never stops, because there's so much that God probably intends for us to achieve. And it's when we open our mind, up to it. So I will open it up to questions and answers. We've got some time here. If you guys, yeah.
So you were talking about before, and I hadn't heard this before, about you don't know what you don't know. So is the end result, you want to be consciously competent, or do you want to be unconsciously competent, meaning that I've done this so often, I'm good at it, I don't even think about it because I know what I'm doing?
It's both. So you want to be unconsciously competent and because once you hit that level with whatever task or knowledge you have, then it's a taking on the next level of things that you need to learn to build on top of that. So it's going back to the idea of 10,000 hours, to become an expert at something. It's the idea of you're going to become, even what it really follows up on what Derek just said. So as a leader, you get to the point where you become you know how to lead, you know how to run the business, you know how to do the things you do. But then what's that next stage that you don't know what you don't know, that you need to be prepared for the next level? And that's about then passing on possibly what you can do unconsciously to someone else, helping them come along to know that, so that you're now taking that next level to be able to understand. So an example, it's kind of an odd example, but I had to get involved in regulatory government affairs 20 some years ago in my business. I was so uncomfortable with the idea of going and sit in front of a politician. The idea of it was like intimidating. It's like, oh my goodness. And then one day I realized, like, wait a minute, these elected officials work for us. But I was really incompetent at how I needed to work with them to get policy changed. Well, now I've done it for so many years that for me to go up on Capitol Hill and talk to any of our delegation is like, oh, Brent, you're here. Yeah. Hi, how are you? Let's talk about these issues. And I'm very comfortable in that world, but yet I never was. But now I'm trying to get other people in my industry and in my company to also come along, because I'm not going to be here doing that forever. So my challenge for me is, how do I get people who are really uncomfortable doing government affairs to realize, no, you have to engage in this process. And it's fun seeing people do it, but that's where I now have to figure out how to teach them how to do it. So I don't know if that helps, but it's just never ending.
Goal to be consciously or unconsciously.
Unconscious is the goal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's-
but you're always doing something else.
We're doing it without thinking.
Yes.
So good at it.
You're so good at it, but you're going to find more is the key.
Alicia, do you have another mic? Alicia, do
Great
you have
question.
another microphone? I don't know if we can.
We can repeat
Oh,
the question.
No, that's fine. Let me just end this, so everybody can online can hear the question too. Yeah, you can repeat the question. Yeah, I just got what you said.
I have another question.
Oh, okay.
Repeat that question. Can I ask my question?
I don't know. You guys just fight for it. Yeah, yeah.
Just fight for it.
I have a question for Pastor Danny. First of all, quick comment. I heard you in one of your sermons where you said, I am a soul and I have a body. That was a really, really good statement for me to help keep me kind of focused. But most often the world measures growth and success differently than God's word. How would you define success based on God's word versus how the world defines it? Because I hear a lot of monetary stuff. Mary and I have been married 41 years. We have 11 grandkids. So my definition of success today is different than it was 40 years ago. But how would you, from being a senior pastor and being with your experience, I wish you would share how you define success.
That is such a great question. And I've thought lots about that for years and years and years. The world definitely puts pressure on us to define success in terms of, how much money you have, what you've accumulated, the house you live in. And so I'm no different from the next person. That pressure hits me the same way. I live in the world like everybody else. I see what people drive. I see where they live. I see where they can go. And, there's a temptation to say success is when I have all those things, or when I'm really well known, or I get to speak on that stage or this stage. And so I fight against that by basically telling myself that biblical success it really comes down to becoming the person that God created me to be and to have the impact that he designed me to have. Why did he put me on this planet? Knowing the calling of my life, knowing the mission that he's given me, have I done that? Have I become the husband to Jackie that he created me to be, the father to my children that he created me to be, or the pastor? Am I developing a church that he had in mind that I have the skill set for? Am I achieving that goal? That's kind of how I define that.
Just a quick follow-up. I can remember when I was in the grocery business, one of my store managers didn't want to take the next step or work maybe 7 days a week based on my expectation. So he left. He ended up, being a father was incredibly important to him, and his son became a pastor. And I always look back at that from my perspective then. Our
what's wrong with
success were our definition was out of alignment. So it seems like that can change.
Absolutely.
Your sovereign independence. I think you said, I like that statement.
Yeah. What good is it if you grow a massive business or even a massive church, which, by the way, this has happened to pastors, not just business people, but their son or daughter is losing their mind, giving in to anxiety, maybe even commit suicide. Pastors' kids. So when I'm coaching pastors, the title of my book is Church Growth Unleashed: How to Grow Your Church Without Losing Your Soul. Because what good is it if we have a massive church, but inside I'm angry and bitter and jealous, or I'm some sort of sexual sin in my life? Like, the whole thing's going to collapse anyway, right? So that's a success. Is I've heard another pastor say like this: success is when the people closest to you respect you the most. And I've always kept it in my mind. Like, I can get up and preach a sermon and people say, "Oh man, that was great." But my wife is sitting there and I go home with her. What does she think? That's what matters, because she knows the truth about what kind of man I really am, so it's a great question.
Anybody else? Question. So they can come on. Anybody else? Anything you want to ask the panelists?
I got another question.
That's good. That's good.
Sorry.
You're good. They're good. No, we got.
I guess for everybody, but I like Pastor Danny's because I don't get a chance to ask him questions ever.
That's true.
How does patience fit within the growth mindset?
You guys want to give that one a shot?
And I guess
And I think
you should do.
But how does patience fit within the growth mindset? That's a great question.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. There it is. The book title. The title of the book. I'll throw another one in there too. I wanted to mention that, and I don't know if it aligns perfectly with patience, but also is relaxation or reflection time. Maybe patience comes in there as well, but because we talked a lot about faith and about action and all, but then what about when you're not active? What does that look like as well? Which is kind of an act of patience.
I think my answer, I had to think about it for a minute, but it'd be long suffering and truly embracing and understanding what long suffering means and how it applies in your life and in your business and in everything you do. And you can have a growth mindset, but yet still have that foundational understanding of that it's truly long suffering. You have to understand there's going to be good times and bad times and working through it. And even though you may be knocked down or things aren't going well, just have that faith. And that's what I anchor in.
No, I mean, when God asks us to be patient, we don't know how long, and if he's got a better idea, or if he's going to say yes at our prayer or no for our prayer. He may just be teaching us patience. So how do you balance that with, some big high charging people who want to build a business, or just through your everyday life? How do you sit here and say, I got to be patient, and I just have to continue to be patient?
How I've done it is with my small group. So Derek and I have done it for 20 some years now. There's 8 of us, sometimes 10, sometimes 5, but about 8. And we have lived life together in such a way that we all are tested, and having others around us that are solid men of faith in this case, that we support each other, because there's really sometimes you don't know what the answer is, but yet having wise counsel is so impactful. And we have said for years, and we talked about it, how do we try to encourage younger professionals to find their small group? And it doesn't just have to be within their church, it could be across multiple, wherever you may be. But that has been such an important part of my life. I think, Derek, you would probably say the same. Is that's how we've gotten through it. Is you could still be hard charging. I can see Derek pushing hard, and I can go tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, let's talk. And same thing for me. So I don't know that that's the best answer, but that's mine.
I think what I would say, and then Bruce, I'd love to hear your thoughts too. I've learned to just biblically, to take the long view of all of the stuff we're talking about, the growth, growth of the church or growth of the business, the growth of the marriage. Let's be incredibly action oriented, but with that action, let's take the long view. Because when you look at how long it took between the time God anointed David to be king to the point where he became king, it's 15 years. And then when you look at when Noah started building the ark until the time he was finished, it was like, I'm pretty sure it was close to 100 years. It's like, I read that stuff. I'm always reminded God is not in a rush with this stuff. And so, but Noah stayed faithful and he built, and David stayed faithful, so our church is 20 years in the making and it didn't happen overnight. So I've always said, our founding pastor, Pastor Jim, those of you who know him, he started the church in 1977. He did 29 years. That was huge for me to step into the shoes of someone who did almost 30 years. I didn't think, man, this is just gonna, which is part of the reason why I pushed through the transition and even pushed through COVID. Like, come on, this is a long game. So biblically speaking, I think it's God is not in a rush. I just need to hang in there.
That's good. It's good. Yes, Bruce.
I was just going to comment. One thing I can promise us all from personal experience is if we'll take Pastor Danny's suggestion to be in God's word every day, the Bible's very clear that we will have success, whatever that is God called us to be. All these verses are running through my head. Joshua 1:8, Matthew 6:33, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. All these things you have need of will be added unto you.
That's good.
Jeremiah 29:11, and just on and on. God promises if we will seek him first, we will stay in the center of his will. That's when we have great success. Whatever his will is for my life, if I'm seeking him first, I'm going to wake up every day, read the Bible, pray, be the best father I can be, and be the best husband, be the best businessman, and honor God in everything I do and everything I say. It's all going to work out.
It's going to be all right
for his glory. And that's the whole reason we're here, is to bring glory to God.
It's good.
Nick, behind you had a question, I think. Thank you, Bruce.
Yeah, thanks, Bruce, for that. That was great. Thank you guys for being here today. One question I was going to ask, and anybody can chime in on this. Can you speak to the relationship between mindset and discipline? Like, sometimes people feel those might be like opposing. It's like, again, like some of our cultures, it's like, no, it doesn't matter. Like, just hustle, hustle, hustle. You can be depressed. You can be anxious. You can be just hustle, 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 get the work done, all that kind of thing. But then there's the mindset side is like, no, like, be balanced, have control, self-control, patience, growth, over time. So like the relationship, is there a balance between those two, and what does that look like? So mine's a little more like a practical, like, you're managing investments and young kids and jobs and part-time jobs and, things like that.
Yeah. Can I take a stab at that?
Go ahead.
So I think that you find a balance in those by asking I'll go back to the term lead measures. And this is how, Derek's question about what do you focus on? You got really 3 things you can do on any given day, sometimes 2, right? So sometimes it's 1, and that's the only thing you can get done. So how do I determine what those things are? And it goes back to asking yourself, well, what am I trying to achieve? Am I trying to be a great father? Is that one of my, or am I trying to, I don't know, you were doing mortgages. I want to close 1 deal a week. Okay. So what lead measures would I need to execute to close 1 deal a week? Well, this many phone calls, this many contacts, this many emails. And those are the things that you get really disciplined with on a daily basis. And you don't do anything else besides eat and sleep or spend time with your wife, and that's how I kind of operate my day. If you looked at my daily calendar, which I could show you right after this, I use the full focus planner, and it's tight around lead measures. And if it's not a lead measure, I'm not wasting time unless I'm sitting at home watching a TV show with my wife. By the way, the TV show that we're watching right now is The House of David. Awesome. You guys see that? It's not exactly accurate to the Bible, but it's still very entertaining.
Yeah.
And so that's how I mesh discipline with the lead measures to come up with what am I going to focus on.
Tell you what, we're past the hour, but yeah, if if you guys want to come up at the close of this meeting and you know, talk to some of the panelists if you have other questions, if they have a little bit of time. I know it's getting late in the hour. The other big thing, I know Danny's mentioned it with Jackie, but my wife is sitting back there and talking about mindset as being having the right person aligned makes a huge difference. She's done a wonderful work in me, and there's still so much more to do. But I do want to give a shout out to her and just appreciation for, you know, all that she does. So yeah. I appreciate all of you attending. I hope did you like? I mean, maybe some new ideas and different way to look at things. So amazing panelists, huh? And give them a round of applause. Great job. Fantastic. Well, good. We try to do these 3 times a year, and so yeah, we'll keep you on the list when the next opportunity comes up, and it will open for any suggestions on topics as well. And I think, is there lunch? There's lunch out here in the kitchen, so you guys help yourself, and hope that you're gonna hear this and then change some things. You know, put some things into practice, and so please, you know, think about this, you know, later on tonight as you get some quiet time, and you know, write some things down and really make this a day of change for you. So I hope that is something that happens for you and takes you to the next level. So
Can I
yes,
make one? I
yeah.
would do what Brent said. Do a 5-year vision from this meeting. Sit down and write it out. That practice that he gave his staff, that is one of the most effective things to create that growth mindset. And do that exercise. Do a 1 page. What's my life look like in 5 years from now?
And what's fun about it, you know, look at Michael here, right? You could write on about business or fitness or anything. So pick the magazine or the newspaper that you want to, because it could be, I'm going to write it and it's in, you know, the Wall Street Journal, and here's the Wall Street Journal article about my life over the past 5 years. So pick the audience or pick the frame, because it may not be a business thing. It might be a personal thing. And what does that article say? Because when you do it in an article, it'll come to life more than just sitting and writing down some goals. Tell about how you got there, what the goal was. And it's as if you were being interviewed and you're telling the story, and just make it a 1-pager. And the problem will be is getting it 1 page, because you'll want to do 5 because it's hard to be concise. But great exercise. Pick the audience you're talking to and make it yours.
It's great.
It's good. It's good. Thank you very much.